Okay, so let's start through the do now. So what elements of the Tang and Song Dynasty diffuse into our society? The do now.
Like the importance of family and community.
Importance of family and community, correct. Yes, that's one. Is there other elements too? It's really, don't really have to overthink this one.
Paper money.
Paper money, yes, paper money. Say again? Writing? Yes, writing.
Gunpowder.
Gunpowder, yeah.
Printing.
Printing, is that what you said? Printing, yes. The compass, correct, yes, the compass. It's even digital, it's on our phone too. That little compass thing. Right, so that's some good stuff. So we're just gonna kind of pick up where we left off last class, and I'm just kind of gonna lecture a little bit more. So if you have whatever you used to write your notes in, that's what we're gonna do. So we're gonna start with number 3 on the last for the video. So what philosophy was important to the Song Society? Did anyone tell me what they put down for that worksheet? Yes.
Yeah, just let me
Okay. Well, like I said, does anyone else want to chime in to what we talked about? Or what was talked about in the video?
Oh, the philosophy of confusion, conclusion.
Confucianism. Yeah, Confucianism.
Basically, confusion and principles which were
Yes,
Or they
Confucianism.
could be applied to the songwriter, to his own side right, or in his politics.
Yes. So does anyone know what Confucianism is? Or have an idea of what Confucianism is? Just want to try to throw a little guess out. Anyone? Attempt? Well, what do you? I'm just asking a general question. What do you think Confucianism is, or what do you think it was about?
Oh, I think, well, I searched it up when I was doing it, but it was talking about like ethics and morals and like how they wanted to be like very moral in terms of like how they conducted themselves.
Yes. So that's what we'll talk about here. So Confucianism. Make sure you write this down. This is important. So Confucianism was, developed by Confucius, and he lived from 551 to 479 BCE. So he was a philosopher and teacher. So his ideas were written down by his disciples much later, and that's how Confucianism ended up coming up to be. Yes, Tiffany had a question?
Is it possible if you can add the slideshow to the stream?
Yeah, I can do that after class. Is that okay? But yeah, so I'll upload these slides to the stream, but still take notes because a lot of what I'm saying is not on here. So Confucianism, the main quote that is taught about during Confucianism is, "Do not do unto others what you would not want others to do unto you." So very, very wordy. Does someone want to put that in current terms? What does that mean now?
Treat others how you want to be treated.
Yes, treat others the way that you want to be treated. So,
Well, that's kind of
Tiffany.
considering that there's some of the class and then started trying in dynasties, that phrase is kind of
Bad?
downridden during that time.
Okay. Well, there was 3 main ideas about Confucianism, or that was taught during Confucianism, which was, as Tiffany said, good moral character. And this was achieved through what they called Ren. So Ren was also known as humanity. So humanity, the point of Confucianism was to be a good moral character, to be a good moral person, thank you. So we can give back, so we can come back and affect the world in a positive way, which they known as cosmic harmony. This is dealt with cosmic harmony. So the next important part of Confucianism was the importance of education. Why do you think it's important to be educated? Why do we want you to go to school? Eugene, yeah. We know how societies run. Yes. Exactly. That's a big thing for history too. So history doesn't repeat itself. That's why it's important to know history. Whether you guys think it's actually interesting or not, if you don't know about history, it tends to repeat itself. So yes, the importance of education, and then filial, I think that's how I say it, filial piety, which is the importance of family. Family is a big, big key to Confucianism. Make sure you write that down. Family is a big key to Confucianism. It is the most important group. The whole line of respecting your elders is what this whole thing is about. You want to respect the elders. The youngest in society are usually the lowest part, and then the elders are the top. That's usually how I think pretty much their culture is today too. But yeah. So Confucianism was seen as an ethical guide to their life and being able to live with strong moral character. So all in all, about strong moral character, Confucius really pointed to that idea. Does anyone have any questions or comments about Confucianism?
No.
No? All right, I'm gonna move on. So, if you finished your worksheets, this was another part of it, which is the flourishing poetry during the Song Dynasty, I want to believe. Yes, Song Dynasty. And it talks about civil service exams. Does anyone want to tell me what that is? What is a civil service exam? Yes.
It's a job that every person that wants a government job in China has to pay in order to get enough.
Yes.
Jobs and get things.
Yeah. So what was it though? What kind of test was it? Yes, but what did it test though? What?
I test your literacy and stuff like that.
Yes.
Whether you're able to create a poem or an essay.
Yes.
Depending what time period.
It was a literacy test. That is also important to know. Civil service exams were literacy tests. And through these literacy tests, they had to write poems, which later turned into essays, which allowed for a flourishing of poems and essays to be written during this time. So a high literacy rate. So this was the key to get into their government. And it allowed for many different people from different social backgrounds to be able to get into government and socially move upwards. So why do you think literacy led to a more stable government? Why do you think it's so important about being literate? What does it mean to be literate? Let's answer that question first. What does it mean to be literate?
Be able to read and understand your own language.
Able to read and understand. That's the important part. Is being able to understand. Because you could read a passage, but do you really understand what that passage is saying? Right? That's the important part of literacy. So let's really think about the requirements it takes to be in a political office, like president. What are the 3 requirements to run for president?
You want to be a New York City, a U.S. citizen.
Born in the U.S. Yeah, U.S. citizen. What other 2? We're missing 2 more.
Oh, you have to be some kind of age.
You have to be 35.
Yes, 35. And then there's 1 more.
Okay, that was very specific. Any kind of age. Any kind of age.
So to be a citizen, yes.
Must have lived in the U.S. for 14 years.
Must have lived in the U.S. for 14 years. But notice, it doesn't really say anywhere that you have to be literate, right? It just assumes that, you kind of go to school, whatever. But clearly we've seen in the past few people that have come through and made candidacy in office, like Dr. Oz, right? Yeah, he's literate, but is he politically literate? Would you say he's politically literate?
Who?
Dr. Oz. He was running for governor in Pennsylvania.
Senator, yeah.
Senator. He lost, thank God. He lost. He lost, but
I mean,
Yeah, this dynasty fell.
so Dr. Oz was running for senator, right, in Pennsylvania, but he didn't really live in Pennsylvania. He admitted that he had 2 houses, one in PA and one somewhere else. So he was able to kind of combat the residency part of running for a candidacy there. Donald Trump, right? Would you say he's very politically literate?
no.
No. But you have to remember, being politically literate is not a qualification to run for presidency, especially. But you would think it should be, right?
The Green Goblin became mayor.
Say again?
The Green Goblin almost became
The
mayor.
Green Goblin, yes.
No, I'm dead.
Arnold Schwarzenegger. Arnold Schwarzenegger was the senator for California, I want to believe. Yeah? Governor. He was the governor of California. Arnold Schwarzenegger, the Terminator. He's jerk. Austrian. He's Austrian. He's Austrian.
You don't have to be born in the United States to be a governor.
Yeah. So do you think that there should be stricter rules to run for office or any form of political office? Anyone? Do you believe that there should be stricter rules
Yes.
when it comes to running for office?
Yes.
Why?
Oh, me?
Anyone? You
feel
said
like
yes.
Maybe like probably I would say background checks.
Background
Just
check.
to see like who's really gonna be like our government, how they do the background check. And I would also say like a requirement, like you have to like kind of like a requirement of what they do on like social media and what they say, because a lot of politicians spread like baseless rumors and lies, and it really affects like the credibility of like individuals on social media because they believe them.
Yeah.
So I feel like kind of like observing what they say and what they would say in terms of their position. I think that's also really important. Like we shouldn't have politicians that are lying to us in our face.
Yeah.
Because are they really politicians?
Learn to be politically literate.
Politically literate, yes.
Yeah, and also not being biased all the time.
Yes.
Just kind of adding on to what Tiffany said, I'm sure there are some kind of background checks, but like maybe if you have multiple women saying like they have allegations against you for sexual assault, maybe you shouldn't be president.
Yeah, well, clearly that came to light between what Donald Trump had said about women, grabbing women. But clearly that wasn't enough, though. That wasn't enough for people to not elect him. So,
But maybe we should make the suggestion that we have to teach people, to be more analytical, because, like, for example, the guy who's running for senator in Georgia, he's a hot mess. Herschel Walker,
oh yeah.
he's been accused of
You guys
putting a
know who
gun
Herschel
on his wife's head,
He's a football
ex-wife's head, like all types of stuff.
I wanted to ask, Chris, what would you define political literacy?
That's a good question.
I would say political literacy would be like not only understanding the situations of life, not only the knowing situations, but understanding what's going on in the world or in your area, I guess you could say, in the U.S.
Well, yeah. I can't. The big thing was, you can take teachers for example, right? There was a big thing in Florida about who should really be teaching in high schools or in schools in general. It's about, they're talking about people who are like me and like Ms. E, who went to college to study teaching. Like I don't just study history. I study how I got my degree to learn how to be a teacher. And they wanted people in the trade field. So say like a professor who's like studied who focused on Africa, whose main focus in Africa, right? And he would just teach you guys history. But he doesn't mean he knows how to teach, right? There's more to it than just coming up here, presenting, and then going through facts and whatever. But if there's no communication, if I don't know how to understand how your behavior works, then my job isn't possible. Yeah.
Does Dr. Oz even have like a degree in like anything like related to politics?
I can't say for sure that he does, but that's the
He's a
thing,
doctor.
right?
He's a doctor.
He's a doctor.
How can we?
But what makes him qualified, right? What
Yeah,
makes him
like,
qualified to
yeah.
run for office? What makes anybody really qualified? You would think that they would have to have like a degree in
Right.
poli-sci, or at least taking a few poli-sci classes. I know I have. That's the only reason why I know some of this stuff. But yeah, so why do we allow people like this to run? Especially now. Like why is there an increase of people who aren't really political beings running for office? Why do you think that happened? Why that's happening? Think about that. All right. So enough on civil service exams.
But see, that's the thing. Civil service exams are like tests. If you're gonna be a bus driver, you have to take a test. If you're gonna be a
Even-
teacher, you have to take a test.
I take
But
multiple
to be a
tests.
president,
Take multiple tests.
you don't have to take a test.
Yeah.
But why is that?
You would think, right?
Yeah.
Why do you think?
Do one's apart.
Well, we might have to come back to that.
We should do that, bro.
We might have to create like a thing for that. All right. So last thing I want to talk about. Huh? I take notes. Yeah. If you want to take notes, take notes. I would suggest taking notes. It'd be easier. But yeah. So Chinese innovation and culture that spreads east to Korea and Japan. So if you know your geography, you know that Korea, right in between Japan and China, the way it's located. So because of that, Korea was seen as a cultural bridge between China and Japan. Korea and Japan traded and warred against each other. That's how their connection originally starts. But because of that, Koreans were able to introduce the Japanese to Chinese writings and culture, and religions like Buddhism was able to go into Japan through Korea. So Korea was the reason why Japan had such interest in China in general. So Japan, because of their increasing interest, sent nobles to China to study their government officials, their scholars, and their monks during the Tang Dynasty. They also absorbed many of Chinese technological innovations, agricultural techniques, philosophies, arts, and architecture. But they did this through selective borrowing. Anyone tell me what they think selective borrowing means? What does it mean to borrow something?
Like negotiating or no, haggling maybe? Or no, I'm thinking something else.
Yeah, you can give it back eventually. Zara?
To take something from someone with the promise of returning it or with the promise of paying them back or something.
Yeah. So, in this case, selective borrowing meant that they accepted some of the Chinese innovations, but they put their own twist on it. So they didn't just take it outright. They didn't say, I want that, I want this, and then they kept it as is. That's not what they did. So they were able to modify them to meet their own needs. That's what selective borrowing means. So that's an important part of this whole thing. There is selective borrowing. Any questions on what we just went over? All the slides we just went over. No? We're good?
And this is very
Yeah,
important,
yeah.
guys, because this is kind of foreshadowing. These two, at this point, they were not countries, right? But later they become countries. We know these two countries have some major issues. You are not to confuse a Korean person with a Japanese person.
Yes.
Don't do.
Yeah. All right. So to finish off, to cap off everything that we've done, we're gonna do an activity.
Wait, so.
I'm gonna put this in. I'll put this in the stream. Is that okay?
Is it called combination? So that's like, when you said Japan took aspects of Chinese culture and made it their own, like, so that's like basically two cultures mixing together and then creating a unique like subculture, right?
Yeah. It's like they integrated it into their society. So like we talked about cultural diffusion is letting some of that come in, but they're not allowing it in entirety. So they only choose what they want. And they're like, I want this, I want this, I want this, and then we'll give everything else back and we just ignore the rest. All right, so we're gonna move on to the activity. we are going to do a postcard activity. Yay!
Yay!
So I'm gonna give you guys these postcards. You want to pass them out? Yeah, you want to pass them out? Here you go. On the back is the rubric. So, okay, get you guys. I want everyone's attention real quick while I go over this. So, the idea of this postcard is to act like you are currently visiting the Tang or the Song Dynasty. And you're going to write to someone describing your time there. So that's what you're going to do on, guys, okay, so that way we don't, I'm not always overstating this. So on this part, I know it's not all through, just write small, add more space. So on this side, you're going to write to someone telling them your experience in the Tang or the Song Dynasty. And on this side, you can decorate however you want. So I put like a greetings from thing on top of the postcard. But when you are describing to when you are writing on the postcard, guys, this is important. Make sure that you include at least 2 of these things. A technological innovation that you encountered there, a geographical encounter, so like mountains, the water, the coast, the ocean, whatever, and then the type of people or things that you might have encountered there, like merchants, art, ideologies, and then be creative when it comes to making your pictures. You can also use outside sources, and you can also use the documents that were given for this class period. So have fun with this, be creative, and yeah, hope you guys.
What if you can't draw?
And then we'll collect it at the end of the period? Yeah, we'll collect it at the end of the period. Alright.
Yep, and
Well, we'll go into the second period first.
Yeah, we're gonna like
So, you guys have gotten a postcard from someone, or seen a postcard, right?
No.
No? No, yeah. So, this little square here is where a stamp would go. So you can make a little stamp, it could be whatever you want. Usually it says 5 cents, 50 cents, whatever. It has a little cent mark in there. This is the area where you will write, and this will be it's usually a picture of where you went, or it says greetings from Brooklyn or whatever. So
you said me right here?
yes, right on the
Oh my
lines.
God, you guys.
You can use the whole space for it. And it's only 3 lines.